So you were supposed to run the weekly for the past 2 weeks. Like you said you were gonna do it. You're like, oh yeah, like it'll be so easy, or whatever. And I come back, and there are no weeklies. Seriously, were you like just were you just like sitting around? Were you just eating the food, or what? Or I got it. You were watching porn. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Jesus. Oh my god, what am I sitting on? Hey, it's Sol, and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly. It's kind of been a while, right? We were on break for Thanksgiving the other week, and then my schedule was thrown off because I set aside time to play Final Fantasy XIV. Is this what we do? At least, sort of. Well, I beat the game, and no, I don't mean like I managed to log in. I actually finished the main story, and I lost all sense of purpose. So stay tuned next week when I share my spoiler-free journey through 14's latest expansion, but for now, let's get to the news. WoW kicked off its 2-week special of Legion Timewalking, featuring dungeons and Mythic Plus and the Mage Tower. But we also can't forget about the Timewalking vendor in Broken Isles Dalaran with its snazzy weapon transmog and armor appearances that come pretty cheap. Not so cheap though, the replica of the Aegis of Agrimar. Par for the course, of course, come the complaints, predictably and legitimately over the Mage Tower due to some over and under tuning. The word on the street is that some spec challenges are much easier than others. Some have claimed they're downright broken. Blizzard has come out to address this, saying that some of the challenges for certain specializations are more difficult than intended, and some are being fixed as we speak. But players are coming at this from all sides, from, hey Blizzard, it's way harder than it was before, fix it, to no, it's fine because I cleared it and you're just bad. It's a little ugly. And it certainly doesn't help that even though the team is working on improving the difference in difficulty between each of the challenges, there's only one more full week left of this event before it's gone for several months. For me, I did complete the challenge for my Protection Paladin, but it's impossible for me to do an exact comparison of the challenge between then and now, but I would like to say that the challenge this week felt almost as difficult as it did back in Legion, and to be precise, this is before the Tomb of Sargeras raid opened up. Keep in mind that when the original Mage Tower released, apart from tweaks, it didn't exactly get harder, it's just that later patches made it easier over time. Not to knock on anyone's skill, but I'd wager that the majority of players completed their Mage Tower challenges after the Tomb of Sargeras opened, and of those, most of them probably did it after patch 7.3.5, with easy to access legendaries, the Nidalek Crucible, the Concordance of Legionfall, and gear from Antorus. This is not me really popping my collar, yeah it is, but it feels like Mage Tower Timewalking is meant to feel as difficult as when the Tomb of Sargeras was first opened, and by the nature of this feature, it's gonna stay that way, meaning that while this feature is made to be beat, it's also made to be challenging. I'd like to hear from some of you who've been taking on the Mage Tower. Which challenges have you tried? Do they feel easier? Do they feel harder? Or are you taking them on for the first time? And if so, what do you think so far? And on a related note, should the tower be up more frequently or even permanently? I don't have good footing to make a real stance on this issue because, yeah, I got mine. I got what I wanted out of it, and I'm in no rush getting that spellbook mount. I totally get that not everyone likes Timewalking being treated as a holiday. In fact, maybe get rid of the whole premise, right? Just let dungeon scaling be a thing game-wide. I've campaigned for that myself, but if you think about it, in a way, that's also like saying the twisting corridors in Torghast is a perfect feature. But what do you think? This week, the Warcraft Community Council forums opened for the first time. Yeah, remember that thing from like a million years ago? Well, it's here, and as promised, it's public for all of us to see and commentate on what I feel is a less than organized start. But let's take a look. A few sticky posts include introductions, and a community manager started a jumping off point from which to begin discussion. And then it's kind of hands off while the council members start building their soapboxes. I don't mean to demean anybody's efforts at all. I'm going to be watching these threads on a very regular basis, but so far I'm observing that there's pretty much no developer presence there as of yet. So what we're seeing on the forum right now is less about discussion and more of, well, the same old thing. People trying to get attention from the developers to respond to issues that are important from the original poster. I do like seeing the variety of topics with PvP and Mythic Plus, and on the flip side, mount and pet achievements. What I'd like to see more of from the council side at least is for them to invite developers to chime in with insights like, like, why is Covenant swapping the way that it is? What were the challenges that prevent it being done anywhere in the world? Now, I might have an explanation, but that's just headcanon. I'd like to get the real explanation. Not because I want to hear excuses, but I think it'd just be a lot of fun to learn more and give feedback on their response. This way, maybe they can draw on my perspective and maybe consider it for future design. But without a regular and consistent developer presence, I'm just looking at another forum or a subreddit. At worst, I'm looking at just another tragic example of poor developer communication, underlined by the fact that somebody on the Blizzard team, probably in a high position, helped make this forum happen in the first place. On the other hand, come on, it's the holiday season. Outside of everything going on, I'm sure the developers are working towards getting tasks done before the holiday break. I've envisioned this sort of concept before, and I want this forum to work really bad for a few reasons. One, it helps give voice to lesser talked about subjects like accessibility for those who are impaired, or inclusivity, maybe narrative design on the structural level, and of course, player housing. Two, it's pretty much like a content generator for me. Like, I have a vision of occasionally, maybe regularly highlighting some of these threads in a video or on stream, sharing the viewpoints with folks, and having outside discussions. And like I said, it's basically free content. Having a developer actually on to interact with these members would make these conversations and reactions much more interesting, but more importantly, it would be more useful for the developers. I'm not a part of this council. Those who are can choose the forum avatar of their choosing if they want to remain anonymous. And well, if I got in and I tried to keep it a secret, I would do like the worst job. Imagine me posting a video here on this channel talking about this one special thread, a really brilliant thread about dissolving the faction divide, and they even posted a link to me. Wow, what a coincidence. Applications still seem to be open and people are still being invited into this council, so check your email every so often to see if you got in. Otherwise, stay tuned for what I hope to be some good conversations between fans and any conversation between fans and developers. Moving on, a new 9.2 build dropped this week, giving us a taste of what's to come and what our daily routine is going to be this patch. But this feels different from final patches from previous expansions. Not so long ago, the name of the game was Old God Assaults, toiling away at the loop that would get us into horrific visions, and switching out Titan Forging for random corruption stuff from world quests. Later on, farming Echoes of Nyalotha to buy corruptions, and still not finding a group to do that PvP island expedition. Before that, we were slapping around on Antorus, grinding artifact power and farming up the right relics for your Netherlight Crucible. Later, you were farming up Awakening Essences to buy legendary tokens. And before that, there was like a legendary ring, and before that, a legendary cloak. What makes 9.2 different, at least so far, is that while there is a grind, that grind doesn't lead anywhere that makes our characters stronger in the way that previous patches did. Now don't worry, there is going to be new gear, there's higher item level and more, but for those who only play the big three, raids, PvP, and dungeons, they don't have to care about the new zone at all because there's nothing really to race for. There's no advantage to give you an edge. Not even flying will really mean anything. Zereth Mortis has zone features that run sort of parallel to the Covenant Sanctum because there is a grind, there are wait times, there's fun little activities, and the rewards are mostly cosmetic. Now there is power progression in the zone. It comes in the form of this so-called Cypher gear, which I'm guessing is going to be earned from the zone. As you progress through this thing, the Cypher Research Console, you'll learn and spend ciphers of the first ones. Spending this currency will passively increase the effectiveness, I'm guessing, which is the item level of your Cypher equipment. And supposedly this Cypher equipment has sockets that you can infuse with permanent special buffs. If I'm right, it looks like Zereth Mortis is one part cosmetics and one part outdoor world progression, which can potentially make you as strong as someone with gear from the big three. My prediction is that outdoors, these perks will kind of make up for the lower item level gear that others would have. It's kind of a neat approach that rewards the more casual folk who are less interested in groups, without punishing other players who are used to feeling forced to run zone content like Korthia. As we learn more, I'll present my findings and thoughts right here on this channel, so stay tuned. On a quick note, let's check out the redo on the Warlock tier set helmet. You might recall from the other week this original version that was data mined, and people were quick to point out that it looks offensively familiar. The WoW team acknowledged the flub, and now the back of the hood looks like this, which looks offensively familiar to something offensively familiar. I think this is one of those cases where you just can't unsee it at this point. I mean, to be fair, if this was in from the start, I think it would have been fine. No one would have noticed, but too little too late. WoW team, I vote that you throw some demon horns on this thing and call it a day. Also this week, along with the PTR build, came the release of a new cinematic, Shattered Legacies, starring not one, but two Sylvanuses. I'll be quick on this one because I conducted my gutter analysis just the other day. I'd like to ask you folks at home and elsewhere, do you find the cinematic to be a spoiler? Because there have been strong reactions among fans over not just the content of the cinematic, but the way that it was released. A tweet from cinematic narrative designer Taryn Gregory reads that this release is by design for the first time, so the context it provides can be a part of testing during this week's chapters. My opinion though, not a spoiler. For those folks out there who digest WoW strictly through official channels and outlets, I fail to see what information has been spoiled. And technically, if the creator releases it themselves, then it's not a spoiler anyway, is it? Because they did it. This cinematic could have been released as far back as like the final chapter of the Korthia campaign, and I can see nothing lost. Now, I'm not a fan of how the PTR affects players' perception of the game because, well, frankly, not everyone can handle it. These people digest previews as if it's like the live game, and it's no wonder that some of them burn out early on or even before that. I don't think this is one of those situations, but I invite you to the comment section to tell me how wrong I am. And finally, there's been a lot going on over at Activision Blizzard, and I want to keep you informed of the most relevant information without overwhelming you with industry drama. I guess that's also my way of saying I don't want to overwhelm myself with the drama either, but here goes. Earlier this week, a number of ABK employees walked out in protest over sudden layoffs at Raven Studios, which largely supports the Call of Duty franchise. In light of the ongoing lawsuits and other protests going on, this has snowballed into a big push for unionization within the company, which apparently raised alarms over an ABK leadership, prompting statements from executives, so-called management training, and other tactics designed to scare workers away from forming the union. I've never been part of a union myself, so I can't say what that really entails, but as an outside observer in all of this, it's plain to see that up until now, workers have not had a voice, and that sentiment extends far beyond just Activision Blizzard or just the gaming industry. I could be wrong, but it certainly feels like too many of the wrong people have too much of the power and the money. There's got to be some sort of balance there, where workers and executives can have a shared discussion instead of workers feeling like serfs to the master. As a fan, I feel like the most effective thing that I can do is listen to the workers, voice my support, and fill you folks in on what's going on as best as possible. And that's the show. I said the other week that this holiday season is going to be great for gamers. Now, don't get me wrong, the industry is shaking up, with workers fighting for more rights, equal pay, and a fair shot, without having to look over their shoulder for creepers in their own offices. In front of the curtain, though, man, things are pretty great. I mean, there's like tons of games to play. Like, okay, sneak preview. I gotta get back to this. Final Fantasy XIV, it was a very, very enjoyable experience, but it also doesn't take away my excitement for patch 9.2. Like, just being in that zone feels like a breath of fresh air with the environment and, of course, just being new. My parting question for you folks at home and elsewhere is, what do you plan on playing this month? It could be something new, it could be something old. Maybe you're gonna take a break from gaming altogether to do other things like, what do people do? Anyway, thanks for joining me today, folks. I really missed you. It's good to be back, at least for now, until the holiday break. A very special thanks to our Twitch subscribers and patrons, including our newest member, Larissa. I really, really appreciate what you're doing, and I hope to read off more names to celebrate the holidays. Don't forget to hit the like button to feed the algorithm and subscribe for more content. We'll see you next time, and until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.